The Galactic Council chamber was a place meant to inspire awe. Its vaulted arches shimmered with artificial starlight, entire constellations dancing across the domed ceiling. Delegates of dozens of species reclined in their hovering seats, layered in tiers of silver and gold. Their voices echoed in dozens of languages, translated instantly by a lattice of AI nodes humming at the chamber's heart. To the Council, this hall was the very symbol of galactic order and wisdom. But for Ambassador Elena Mitchell, standing at the speaking dais with her hands clenched around a trembling datapad, the chamber felt less like a monument and more like an arena filled with predators waiting for her to stumble. "We've sent telemetry. We've sent sensor footage. You can review the signatures yourselves," Mitchell said, her voice catching only slightly. "The Zareth Dominion isn't ignoring us anymore. Their ships crossed into human-charted space. Their probes scanned Luna's orbit. Earth is no longer beneath their notice." Laughter rippled among the alien delegates, soft and cruel. The chittering of the Harkoon ambassador was the loudest, a grating rasp that translated into, "Humans imagined shadows and called them fleets." Others murmured agreement, voices layered with dismissal. Councillor Varia of the Lyrathi, tall and elegant with bioluminescent patterns running along her skin, leaned forward. "Ambassador Mitchell, humanity has only just arrived on the galactic stage. You have not yet learned the difference between an exploratory drone and an invasion force. The Zareth have no interest in your barren system. Spare us these alarms." Mitchell swallowed hard. She wanted to shout, to slam her datapad on the podium, to force them to listen. Instead, she straightened her blazer, squared her shoulders, and replied, with respect, "Counselor, Earth remembers what it means to be underestimated. History is full of examples. And when threats are ignored, they do not vanish. They sharpen." The chamber filled with scoffs. A dozen alien voices overlapped, dismissing her warnings as paranoia. Finally, the council speaker brought down his crystal rod, silencing the hall. "Your petition is noted, Ambassador. Humanity's concerns will be filed. This session is concluded." Her words were buried beneath the gavel of indifference. Blank, blank. Half a system away, on the Lunar Defense Command base, General Marcus Steele stood in front of a viewport overlooking the pitted gray plains of the moon. Beyond the glass, the black of space stretched infinite, dotted with the faint glimmers of Earth's orbital platforms. His reflection, broad shoulders in a dark uniform, streaks of gray in his close-cropped hair, seemed carved from stone. "They laughed at you again," said Dr. Evelyn Carter, joining him at the window. She carried a datapad filled with schematics, railgun designs so advanced they bordered on science fiction to most council engineers. Her voice was quiet but seething with frustration. "I could hear the transmissions. They mocked you like we're children playing soldier." Steele didn't turn from the glass. "Let them laugh. We're not building these guns for their approval." Carter set the pad on the console, bringing up an image of the orbital rail array, 3 colossal platforms anchored in high Earth orbit, each armed with magnetic acceleration cannons stretching nearly a kilometer in length. Power conduits glowed along their spines, hungry beasts waiting to be fed. "If they're right, and we're just paranoid, this is a colossal waste of resources. But if we're right," Steele finally turned, his eyes hard, "then this is the only thing standing between Earth and extinction." The room hummed with quiet tension. Engineers worked in the background, their voices hushed, their fingers dancing across holographic controls. Each one knew the Council had dismissed humanity. Each one knew that if Earth was to survive, it would be by its own strength. Blank. On Mars orbit, Commander Daniel Hayes sat strapped into the cockpit of his strike fighter, helmet resting on his knee. Around him, the rest of Phantom Squadron ran through checklists, their voices crackling across the comms with the easy banter of veterans who had long since learned to hide fear behind jokes. "Hey, Phantom 6, one of them called, you really think these new rail platforms can punch through a Zareth hull? I heard their cruisers eat neutron blasts for breakfast." Hayes smirked, running a hand over the edge of his console. "Then we'll make sure they choke on lunch. Just keep your eyes open and your throttle steady." The squadron laughed, but the tension underneath their words was palpable. They had seen the sensor echoes too. They had flown past fragments of shredded satellites near Neptune's orbit, the pieces melted and twisted in ways no natural phenomenon could explain. Hayes knew, just as they all did, that war wasn't a question of if, but when. Back on Earth, Elena Mitchell sat alone in her embassy quarters, staring at the blinking cursor on her report draft. The words refused to come. Her throat burned with the memory of laughter echoing in the council chamber. She wanted to warn her people, to scream into every channel she had access to, but protocol held her back. The council had spoken. Officially, Earth was safe. Officially, the Zareth had no interest. But as she stared out the window at the star-freckled sky, Mitchell whispered to herself, history won't remember their laughter. It'll remember who was ready. Blank. The day of the railgun test arrived. The orbital rail array floated in high Earth orbit, a trio of gleaming titans suspended against the black. Each cannon was a cathedral of steel and superconductors, wrapped in magnetic coils glowing with dangerous promise. Inside the control center, Carter's fingers danced across glowing interfaces. Charging sequence initiated. Magnetic coils stabilizing at 70%. Power draw steady. Steele stood behind her, arms folded, eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the target, an asteroid dragged into position near lunar orbit. A harmless rock, chosen to demonstrate destructive potential. But in his mind, Steele didn't see a rock. He saw the looming outline of a Zareth dreadnought. Phantom Squadron, status. Steele asked over comms. Ready and watching, Hayes's voice replied, steady and calm. Got the best seats in the system for the fireworks. The coils screamed as power surged through them, a low hum resonating in the bones of every crew member. The chamber shook with restrained force, the promise of devastation chained only by human engineering. Firing in 3, 2, 1, Carter's voice cracked slightly on the final word. The railgun discharged. For a heartbeat, silence. Then the asteroid split apart in a blossom of molten rock and incandescent plasma, the fragments scattering like embers across the void. The shockwave rattled even the hardened shields of Phantom Squadron's fighters, forcing Hayes and his pilots to grip their controls. Holy hell, one pilot breathed. That wasn't a gun. That was a goddamn thunderbolt. In the control center, Carter stared at the display with wide eyes, sweat beading on her forehead. Steele allowed himself the faintest of smiles. Now, he said quietly, let's see the council laugh. Blank. News of the test rippled across human colonies in hours. On Mars, miners gathered around holoscreens, cheering as the asteroid shattered again and again in replay. On Luna, children in domes painted railguns on their toy ships. On Earth, politicians argued about militarization, but even the doubters felt a secret thrill watching the weapon's destructive elegance. And far away, across gulfs of dark space, signals carried the test's data beyond human reach. In the cold, silent territory of the Zareth Dominion, receivers captured the faint pulse of electromagnetic devastation. Alien eyes watched. Alien minds calculated. The humans had built a weapon worthy of notice. For the first time in millennia, the Dominion adjusted its war plans. Ambassador Mitchell received the news 2 weeks later. She sat in her office, staring at the transmission from Steele's staff, video of the asteroid annihilation. Her lips parted, caught between horror and pride. She could still hear the council's dismissals ringing in her ears. But now, she imagined their expressions as they saw the footage. She forwarded the file to the Galactic Council's secure channel. No words, just the recording. The humans had sent every signal. The council had ignored them. But the thunder of the railguns could not be ignored. On the far edge of the Orion Arm, within a vast cathedral of black steel warships, the Zareth Dominion fleet stirred. Thousands of vessels aligned their vectors. Engines glowed. Commanders hissed orders in guttural tones. Humanity had revealed its fangs. And the Zareth, predators by nature, smiled. The void between Mars and Jupiter was silent, endless, and cruel. Humanity had always looked upon the asteroid belt as a frontier, miners carving wealth from stone, freighters hauling cargo along shimmering routes of plasma drive trails. But for Commander Daniel Hayes and Phantom Squadron, that stretch of black was no longer frontier. It was the thin, fragile line between survival and annihilation. Hayes's HUD glowed with tactical overlays as his fighter skimmed the edge of Ceres orbit. The comms crackled with routine chatter from his squadmates. But then, a voice broke in from command, clipped, tense, carrying the weight of everything. Unidentified contact detected. Bearing 097 by 33. No transponder. No council registration. Hayes sat straighter, eyes narrowing. His squadron had rehearsed this moment 100 times in simulations. None of those drills made the chill running down his spine any less real. Phantoms, Titan formation, eyes open. Out beyond the belt, a shadow moved. At first it looked like nothing more than a star shifting slightly. Then more stars vanished behind it. A shape emerged from the dark, angles too sharp, lines too deliberate. It was massive, easily dwarfing any human cruiser. The hull shimmered with a strange green-black sheen, alive with crawling lights. "Jesus," one pilot muttered. "That's no freighter." The Zereth Dominion had arrived. Blank. On Luna Command, General Steele stood surrounded by hollow screens, Carter at his side. The image of the alien vessel floated above the table, a predator in the dark. Engineers and analysts rushed to compare its readings against every scrap of known data. None of it matched. None of it reassured. Carter's voice was hushed. "Their hull is absorbing our scans. It's like the ship itself is drinking the signals." Steele grunted, jaw tight. Predators cloak themselves before the kill. The room was silent. Everyone knew the Council had dismissed humanity's warnings. Everyone knew that if Hayes' squadron didn't survive this, Earth might never know what had come for them. Ambassador Mitchell burst into the Council chamber, breathless, clutching a fresh datapad. "It's here. We have visuals. We have telemetry. The Zereth Dominion vessel is real, and it is in the belt." The delegates stirred, annoyance flashing more than alarm. Counselor Varia sighed, her bioluminescence pulsing with irritation. "Ambassador Mitchell, humanity's paranoia grows tiresome. Anomalies occur. Do not dramatize." Mitchell slammed the pad on the podium, the feed of Hayes' fighter cameras playing in brilliant detail. The black-green ship emerging, its lights writhing across the hull like fireflies trapped in oil. The chamber murmured with unease. No one could deny the image. And yet, the speaker intoned, "One ship does not constitute invasion. Do not mistake curiosity for war." Mitchell's voice shook with rage. "Curiosity doesn't cloak itself in armor plating thicker than a city block. You want proof of war? Watch. It's already begun. In the black between worlds, Phantom Squadron made first contact. The alien ship opened a rift along its flank, revealing rows of glowing orbs that pulsed with sickly light. Energy surged, and in the next instant, lances of emerald fire streaked across space. Hayes' HUD screamed with alerts. Phantom 2 vanished in a blaze, the pilot's last curse cut short. Phantom 5 spun out, her hull torn open, air and flame venting into the void. Break! Hayes barked, wrenching his stick. Fighters scattered, streaking between tumbling rocks of the belt as alien fire chased them. The void lit with deadly arcs of green, cutting stone into vapor. Hayes clenched his teeth. "Command, we are under fire. Repeat, we are under attack. This is no drill." Steele's voice came back, hard as iron. "Phantoms, survive. Bias minutes. Rail array is charging. On the array itself, Carter sprinted between stations. "We're at 60%. Coils are heating. We push harder and we risk meltdown." Steele loomed over her shoulder, his voice low. "If we don't push, there won't be anyone left to save." Carter hesitated, then slammed her hand against the override. The power conduits roared, the hum of energy building to a teeth-rattling pitch. The entire platform shook as if it were a beast straining at its chains. Hayes ducked under a spray of emerald fire, his fighter rattling. Phantom 7's voice cut in. "They're hurting us, damn it. They're driving us toward the ship." The alien vessel's flank split wider, revealing rows of what looked like teeth, launch bays lined with smaller craft, chittering insectoid designs darting free like wasps from a hive. A dozen, then 2 dozen. Fast, sharp, lethal. Those are fighters, Hayes realized, bile rising in his throat. "Phantoms, on me. We don't die running, we die fighting." They swung around, human fighters roaring toward the oncoming swarm. The void exploded into chaos, lasers crisscrossing, missiles streaking, alien craft twisting in impossible arcs. Hayes' HUD lit red with warning after warning. But still he flew, weaving between death, his wingmen falling one by one. At last, the array was ready. Coils stabilized. "Power at maximum," Carter announced, voice ragged. "Target locked." Steele's gaze never wavered. "Fire." The railgun thundered. A spear of hyper-accelerated tungsten ripped across space, invisible save for the plasma trail it ignited. It struck the alien ship dead center. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the void itself seemed to scream. The Xerath vessel convulsed, its hull cracking open as molten fragments spewed outward. Alien fighters spiraled, half of them disintegrating in the blast wave. On phantom comms, silence reigned, then shouts of disbelief. They hit it. They actually hit it. Hayes let out a ragged laugh, part relief, part madness. But even as he watched, the alien ship's wounds sealed with impossible speed. The crackling green light reknit its armor, oozing over the scar. It's still alive, Hayes whispered. Blank. On Luna, the control room reeled. Carter stared, pale. That shot would have split a dreadnought in half. And it's still moving. Steele's expression was carved from stone. Then we fire again. Back at the council chamber, Mitchell's transmission of the battle fed onto towering holoscreens. Delegates leaned forward, their arrogance wavering as the sight of the railgun strike, and the aliens' recovery, played before their eyes. You see, Mitchell shouted, voice carrying across the hall. This is war. Humanity warned you, and you ignored us. The first fleet has come, and it will not stop at Earth. If you will not act, we will. The speaker said nothing. The silence of the chamber was louder than denial. In the belt, Phantom Squadron dwindled. Hayes counted only 4 signatures left, himself among them. His knuckles were white, his breath ragged. Alien fighters swirled around him, but suddenly the comms burst with a voice. Phantom Leader, this is Array. Second shot ready. Clear the lane. Hayes yanked his stick, pulling his battered fighter away. Behind him, the Array fired again. Another tungsten spear crossed the void, this one slamming into the alien ship's flank. The vessel shuddered, hull plates buckling, green light flickering. Then, finally, silence. The Xerath ship broke apart in a chain reaction, fragments scattering like burning leaves. Alien fighters lost cohesion, darting in panic before dissolving into retreat. Phantom Squadron, what was left of it, floated among debris, hearts pounding. Hayes closed his eyes. First blood, he whispered. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Humanity had faced the Xerath, and lived. But the cost was written in names of the dead, scrolling across screens. Phantom Squadron had been gutted. Families wept. Colonies braced. Earth's leaders debated. And far beyond, in the Dominion's dark halls, alien commanders watched the bottle's recordings. They had underestimated the humans. That mistake would not be repeated. War had truly begun. The debris field glittered like a broken mirror scattered across the void. Hayes guided his battered fighter through drifting shards of alien hull, eyes scanning for movement that never came. The Xerath vessel was gone. The first battle was over. And yet, there was no victory in the silence. Phantom 3, status. He called, voice hoarse. A crackle of static, then a ragged reply. Alive. Systems fried. Hull integrity at 30%. Phantom 4. Hayes waited, heart hammering. Nothing. Only the endless hiss of dead comms. He closed his eyes, jaw tightening. Out of 12 pilots, only 4 remained. The first battle of humanity's space war had ended with blood, and most of it was theirs. Form on me, Hayes said at last. We're going home. Lunar Defense Command was a storm of activity when Phantom Squadron limped into dock. Technicians swarmed the surviving fighters, faces pale as they counted scorch marks and patched hulls. Hayes climbed down from his cockpit, his legs trembling. He pulled off his helmet, sweat streaking his hair, and looked around at the other survivors. Their eyes met his, exhausted, hollow, but burning with a shared truth. They had fought the Xerath. And they had lived. General Steele was waiting on the deck, hands clasped behind his back. He looked at Hayes not as a superior officer but as a man seeing ghosts. Commander. Report. Hayes swallowed. We confirmed Xerath contact. Heavy cruiser class, unknown fighter support. Railgun strike neutralized the target, but we lost 3/4 of the squadron. The weight of the words pressed down on the hangar. The crew who had gathered to listen shifted, grief rippling through them. Steele gave a curt nod, his face unreadable. You did what no one else in the galaxy has dared. You drew blood from the Dominion. The names of your fallen will be remembered. But Hayes, standing amid the wreckage of his squadron, wondered who would remember the living. Blank, underscore, blank. Dr. Evelyn Carter sat at her console hours later, staring at the railgun telemetry. The numbers told a story she couldn't ignore. Stress fractures along the coil housings, magnetic instability in the power cores, efficiency loss under extended fire. The railguns had worked, but barely. And at the cost of lives. She pressed her palms to her eyes, trying to banish the images of pilots dying under alien fire. Evelyn. Steele's voice was softer than usual as he approached. You saved us. She shook her head. I built a weapon. I watched them burn alive while we charged it. If the array had fired 30 seconds later, then Earth would already be ash, Steele interrupted, his tone firm. He crouched beside her, eyes locking on hers. War doesn't give us the luxury of perfect timing. You gave us a fighting chance. That's more than the Council ever will. Carter looked at him, her guilt battling against the cold truth. She nodded, but her hands still trembled. Blank, underscore, blank. On Earth, the story of the battle spread like wildfire. Footage of the railgun strike was replayed endlessly on news feeds. The brilliant flash, the alien ship tearing apart, the sudden silence. To billions watching, it looked like triumph. Crowds gathered in cities waving flags, chanting the names of Phantom Squadron. Children painted railguns on their school walls, imagining humanity as galactic giants. Politicians claimed victory as proof of Earth's ascendance. But not everyone celebrated. In quieter corners, grief was raw. Families of fallen pilots mourned before cameras, holding up photographs of sons and daughters who would never return. Protesters filled plazas with signs reading "No war in space" and "Stop the arms race." A mother screamed into a microphone, "My boy was 20. 20. You call this victory?" The world was divided, glory and sorrow, pride and fear. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage, but not all agreed on the script. Blank, underscore, blank. In the council chamber, the holoscreens replayed the battle for the assembled delegates. For the first time, silence reigned. No one laughed at Ambassador Mitchell's words now. The footage was undeniable. Zereth warships, Zereth fighters, human railguns punching through their armor. The galaxy had seen what Earth had become. Counselor Varia's patterns flickered uneasily. It is troubling, she admitted, voice wavering. The Dominion has not deployed vessels so deep in millennia. Troubling. Mitchell snapped, rising to her feet. Her voice shook with fury she no longer bothered to restrain. They slaughtered my people. They came unprovoked, and they killed. Call it what it is, war. And while you debated, we bled. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others remained dismissive. One skirmish does not make a war, an insectoid ambassador buzzed. The humans exaggerate, as always. Mitchell slammed her hand on the podium. Exaggerate. Look at your screens. Look at the wreckage of our fighters. If you will not act, then Earth will stand alone. And when the Zereth come for your colonies, don't expect us to save you. Her words rang like thunder in the silent chamber. For once, no one dared laugh. Blank, underscore, blank. Far away, in the heart of the Dominion, the alien commanders watched the same footage with cold precision. The railgun strike fascinated them. No species of the Council had ever built such a weapon, never dared to hurl raw matter at such velocity. The humans had found a different path to destruction, and it had wounded the Dominion. Primitive, one Zereth admiral hissed, mandibles clicking. Crude, but effective. Another leaned forward, green light reflecting in compound eyes. They are prey with unexpected fangs. The first vessel fell because we were careless. We will not be careless again. Orders spread across the Dominion fleet. War engines stirred. Dozens of cruisers, then hundreds, activated their drives. Black hulls shimmered in the void, readying for the hunt. The humans had drawn first blood. Now the Dominion would respond. Blank, underscore, blank. On Luna, Hayes stood before a wall of names scrolling endlessly across a holoscreen, his squadron mates, listed as fallen in action. His hand hovered near the glass, trembling, before curling into a fist. He whispered the names under his breath, one by one, a vow etched into silence. We'll make them pay. Behind him, Carter entered quietly. She said nothing, only stood beside him, her presence a fragile comfort. Together they watched the names pass, and together they carried the weight of the dead. Blank, underscore, blank. In the darkness beyond Neptune, Probes caught the first flickers of incoming drive signatures. Dozens at first, then hundreds, each one a blade aimed at Earth. The first battle had been won. The war was only beginning. The shipyards of Luna blazed with light. For the first time in human history, an entire fleet was forged not for exploration, not for deterrence, but for war. Docking arms extended like skeletal fingers, clutching half-complete battleships bristling with rail cannons. Crews worked without rest, welding, calibrating, praying their labor would be finished before the Dominion came again. General Marcus Steele stood on a command balcony, gazing down at the chaos with grim satisfaction. The orbital rail array had proved itself. Now the design was being adapted, scaled, and mounted on warships. Humanity would not wait for the enemy to bring annihilation to Earth. They would carry the thunder of the railguns into the void. Dr. Evelyn Carter walked beside him, tablet in hand, exhaustion written in every line of her face. The modifications aren't perfect, she admitted. Railguns this size weren't meant to be mobile. They overheat, they misalign under acceleration, and if the capacitors fail. They won't fail, Steele said, his tone absolute. They can't. Every hour we hesitate is another hour the Zareth advance. Carter didn't argue. She knew the truth as well as he did. But still, she whispered, every shot will cost lives, Marcus. We can't afford mistakes. Blank. Commander Daniel Hayes sat in the ready room of the newly christened UNS Resolute, helmet under his arm. Around him, the survivors of Phantom Squadron filled the benches, far fewer than there had once been. Their faces were hardened now, their laughter gone, replaced with the quiet intensity of those who had seen hell and come back scarred. He stood before them. You all know what's coming. The Dominion isn't going to send one cruiser this time. They'll come with a fleet. Maybe dozens. Maybe hundreds. But we're not flying into that fight as prey. We're hunters now. We've bloodied them once, and we'll do it again. One of the pilots, Phantom 3, a woman named Ramirez, raised her chin. And if we don't make it back? Hayes's jaw tightened. He looked at each of them in turn. Then we make sure the last thing those bastards see is Earth's fire in their faces. The squadron gave a quiet nod, no cheers, no bravado. Just acceptance. Ambassador Elena Mitchell had never seen Earth's sky so restless. From the surface of Geneva, she watched transports roar upward on streaks of plasma, ferrying soldiers and supplies to the growing armada. Civilians crowded the streets to watch, torn between pride and dread. Children waved flags. Parents whispered prayers. In the council chamber, the debate was raging still. Mitchell stood at her post, listening as alien delegates bickered. Some called humanity reckless. Others whispered fearfully of the Dominion's wrath. None offered fleets, soldiers, or weapons. You ask us to risk our own colonies for your vendetta, one insectoid delegate hissed. We will not be dragged into human folly. Vendetta. Mitchell snapped, fury sparking. You've seen the recordings. You've watched them slaughter my people. This isn't vendetta, it's survival. You think the Dominion will stop at Earth. You're next. All of you. Her words fell on silence. The council was paralyzed, divided by fear and arrogance. Humanity would stand alone. The day of departure came. The first fleet assembled in high Earth orbit, 100 ships gleaming silver and steel, banners of blue and white fluttering on their hulls. Rail cannons lined their spines like spears pointed at the stars. Carriers deployed swarms of fighters. Freighters refitted with armor joined the ranks. Humanity's strength, gathered for the first time in one armada. General Steele stood on the bridge of the flagship UNS Aegis, gaze fixed on the tactical map. Set course for the belt. We'll meet them before they reach Mars. Hayes's voice came through the calm and steady. Phantom Squadron standing by. Carter remained planetside, her hands clasped as she watched the fleet rise. She had fought to give them weapons. Now she prayed those weapons would be enough. The first sight of the Dominion fleet stole the breath from every human aboard. They emerged from the void beyond Jupiter, dozens, then hundreds of black-green vessels, each one larger than a city, their hulls alive with crawling light. Fighters swarmed around them in numbers that defied imagination, a storm of wings blotting out stars. Mother of God, Ramirez whispered over comms. That's not a fleet. That's a tidal wave. Hayes forced his voice to stay steady. Eyes front, phantoms. We've faced them before. We'll do it again. Blank, underscore, blank. The battle began with thunder. Railguns fired, streaking tungsten slugs across space at a fraction of light speed. The Dominion's leading ships shuddered under the impact, hulls splitting, green ichor spraying into the void. Cheers erupted across human comms as alien warships exploded in blossoms of fire. Direct hit. They're breaking formation. For a moment, it seemed possible. For a moment, humanity believed. Then the Dominion adapted. The second volley never landed. The Zareth ships unfolded shimmering shields of emerald energy, bending trajectories, dissolving slugs in mid-flight. Fighters swarmed like hornets, darting past human guns with inhuman agility. Plasma lances carved through destroyers, cutting them apart like paper. Carriers screamed as their decks split, spilling fighters into the void. On the bridge of the Aegis, steel gripped the console. Concentrate fire. Break their line. But there was no line. The Dominion flowed. Like liquid, their formations shifting, overwhelming every gap. For every alien ship that died, 10 more surged forward. Blank, underscore, blank. Phantom Squadron fought in the storm. Haze weaved through waves of alien fighters, missiles streaking from his wings. He caught glimpses of friends dying, Ramirez's ship torn apart, Phantom 6 spiraling into Jupiter's gravity well. His HUD flashed red, damage alert screaming. But still he flew, still he killed, his heart a furnace of rage. Fall back. A voice screamed across fleet comms. We're being overrun. The order spread, chaos unraveling what little formation remained. Ships tried to retreat, but the Dominion gave no quarter. Their weapons carved fleeing vessels apart, one after another, until the belt was littered with wreckage. Blank, underscore, blank. On Earth, Carter watched the tactical feed collapse into silence. One by one, ship signatures winked out. She gripped the edge of her console until her knuckles whitened, tears blurring her vision. Marcus, she whispered, though she knew he could not hear. Mitchell stood in the council chamber, forcing delegates to watch the same feed. Alien faces turned pale as the human fleet was annihilated. She wanted to scream, to curse them, to demand action, but the sight of fire swallowing her people stole her voice. Blank, underscore, blank. In the belt, the UNS Aegis burned. Alarms wailed, fire tearing through decks. Steele stood on the collapsing bridge, refusing to leave his post. His comms were filled with screams, with Hayes's desperate voice calling for survivors to retreat. But Steele knew. The First Fleet was lost. Humanity had struck the Dominion, but now the hammer blow had fallen. Tell Earth, he rasped to no one in particular, his voice drowned by explosions. Tell them, to stand. The flagship cracked apart, consumed by green fire. General Marcus Steele died with his ship, his gaze fixed on the stars. Blank, underscore, blank. Only a handful of ships escaped. Phantom Squadron limped away, fewer than ever. Hayes's fighter sputtered, his body bruised and bloodied. He looked back one last time, watching the graveyard of the First Fleet drift silently in the void. They ignored the signals, he whispered to himself, echoing Mitchell's words. Now they'll hear the screams. Blank, underscore, blank. Far beyond, in Dominion space, admirals clicked their mandibles in grim satisfaction. Humanity had fought fiercely, but it had been crushed all the same. They would be exterminated, just another prey species swallowed by the endless tide. And yet, even as they celebrated, a flicker of unease lingered. The humans had killed a Dominion vessel. They had scarred the fleet. They had refused to die quietly. The war was far from over. The void was silent after the storm, broken only by drifting wreckage. Twisted hulks of battleships turned slowly, their railguns shattered and cold. Escape pods flickered weakly, some venting air, others already lifeless coffins. The belt was a graveyard, marked by fire and silence. Commander Hayes's fighter rattled, half its systems dead. He scanned for survivors, heart hammering. Each ping on his scope was another comrade, or another corpse. Phantom Squadron had been 20 strong when they left Earth. Now, only 3 signatures remained besides his own. Phantom 4, still here, a faint voice crackled. Ramirez's ship was gone, but another of his pilots, Nguyen, answered weakly. Hull breached, life support failing. Hayes's jaw clenched. Stay with me, Nguyen. I'll get you out. You can't, came the reply, broken by static. Just, make them pay. The signal vanished. Hayes's fist slammed the console, but there was no time for grief. He angled his crippled fighter toward the nearest carrier wreck, hoping to dock, hoping to find anyone left alive. Every move sent sparks from the damaged systems, but rage kept him steady. Blank. Back on Earth, Evelyn Carter sat before the tactical display, unable to move as the casualty list scrolled endlessly. She had built the weapons, poured her genius into making them sing, and now they had sung, and died with their crews. Her chest heaved, breath ragged, as survivor signals trickled in. One came through clearly, Hayes's voice, distorted but defiant. We fought. We bled. They're not invincible, but they are endless. Tell Earth to stand. Don't let Steele's death be wasted. Carter pressed trembling hands to her mouth. Tears blurred the screen. She whispered to the empty room, we'll make them pay, Daniel. I swear it. Blank. In the council chamber, Ambassador Mitchell forced the survivors' transmissions onto the great holographic display. The chamber filled with the faces of dying humans, the screams of burning ships, the desperate final orders of General Steele. Alien delegates flinched, recoiling from the raw horror. Some hissed, some averted their eyes. But Mitchell stood tall, her voice a blade. You see now. This is no vendetta. This is no human folly. This is what awaits you all. You think you are safe because the Dominion feasts on Earth first. You are wrong. We are the appetizer. You are the feast. Counselor Varia, once so dismissive, spoke with a trembling voice. Perhaps we underestimated. Mitchell cut him off. No. You ignored us. You laughed while my people begged. And now the First Fleet lies dead because of your arrogance. Her voice broke, but she forced Steele back into it. But remember this, humanity will not kneel. Even if Earth burns, we will drag the Dominion into hell with us. The chamber erupted in arguments, but Mitchell no longer listened. She turned her back on them, walking out with shoulders stiff. The council's time was ending. Far beyond, deep in Dominion space, an admiral of the Zareth fleet contemplated the battle. His name was Sosoric, his carapace gleaming under emerald light. Reports filled his chamber. Human resistance broken, enemy fleet destroyed, victory complete. And yet Sosoric stared at the damage logs. A dozen Dominion warships destroyed. Hundreds of fighters lost. The humans had drawn blood. Few prey races had ever managed that. They are small, he rasped to his second. Fragile. But not weak. They strike with thunder from their metal spears. They fight even when all hope is lost. Dangerous traits. The second chittered dismissively. They are finished. Their fleet is ash. Their world will follow. Sirac's mandibles clicked slowly, thoughtfully. Perhaps. But mark me well, the humans will not die as prey. They will die as predators. And predators leave scars. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion admiral felt something strange. Not fear. Not yet. But the shadow of it. In the wreckage of the belt, Hayes's battered fighter finally docked with a crippled frigate. Inside, he found fewer than 50 survivors, bleeding, shell-shocked, but alive. He staggered among them, his voice hoarse as he swore to them all. This isn't the end. We'll rebuild. We'll fight again. And next time, we won't just survive. We'll win. They believed him, because they had no other choice. In the silence of the graveyard, humanity's survivors lit a single beacon, transmitting one message back to Earth. We are bloodied, but not broken. The survivors of the First Fleet returned to Earth in silence. Their ships were shattered hulks, their crews broken and grieving. Docking bays filled with smoke and blood as the wounded were carried out, medics working until their hands trembled. Families gathered in the viewing galleries, straining for glimpses of loved ones, most would see only empty air. Commander Hayes stumbled down the ramp of his battered fighter, helmet clutched in one hand. He was bruised, cut, exhausted. But his eyes burned with a fire that no Dominion weapon could extinguish. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions, cameras flashing. Hayes ignored them all. He walked past, jaw clenched, until he found Drive. Evelyn Carter waiting. She ran to him, relief breaking across her face, then froze when she saw the hollowness in his expression. Daniel, what happened out there? Hayes swallowed hard, his voice raw. They adapted. Shields, countermeasures. Our guns still hurt them, but not enough. We lost Steele. We lost almost everyone. Carter pressed a hand to her mouth, tears spilling. I gave them the tools, and it still wasn't enough. Hayes gripped her shoulder. It was enough to draw blood. Don't blame yourself. We proved they can bleed. That means they can die. Blank, underscore, blank. In Geneva, Ambassador Elena Mitchell stood before the United Earth Assembly. The chamber was packed, every seat filled, every gallery overflowing with citizens desperate for answers. Survivors, testimonies had already spread across the networks, voices of men and women describing the slaughter, the Dominion's endless tide. Mitchell raised her hand, silencing the noise. We are at war. Not just Earth. Not just humanity. All free peoples. The Dominion will not stop with us. They will burn every world, consume every system, until nothing remains but silence. A voice rose from the assembly floor. And the Galactic Council, will they stand with us now? Mitchell's jaw tightened. They will argue. They will hesitate. Some will send aid in secret, but the Council as a whole. No. They are too divided. Too afraid. She leaned forward, her voice fierce. So we will not wait for them. Humanity will stand alone if we must. We will fight, we will endure, and we will win. The chamber erupted in thunderous applause. Citizens rose to their feet, fists raised. For the first time since the Belt disaster, there was not only grief in the air, but resolve. Blank, underscore, blank. Factories blazed across Earth, Mars, and Luna. Assembly lines ran day and night, churning out railgun slugs by the millions, warships by the dozens. Engineers worked alongside soldiers, refining designs, pushing the technology further. Carter led teams in secret bunkers, experimenting with new alloys, faster capacitors, magnetic shielding. Sleep was rare, mistakes costly, but innovation flowed like fire. Carter stood in the heart of the testing chamber, watching a new prototype fire. The slug punched through reinforced armor, leaving molten metal behind. She allowed herself the smallest of smiles. Better, she whispered. Faster. Stronger. This time, they won't stop us. Blank, underscore, blank. Hayes, now promoted to Commodore, took command of the rebuilt Phantom Wing. Their new fighters bristled with improved cannons, rail-assisted launchers, and armor stripped of every ounce of wasted weight. Training runs filled the skies above Earth, pilots weaving in deadly formations. Hayes watched them from the observation deck, arms crossed. Still not enough pilots, his adjutant said quietly. Hayes's eyes narrowed. Then we'll make more. Every kid who's flown a skimmer, every miner who's steered a hauler, they'll learn. We'll turn them into soldiers. The adjutant hesitated. And if they break, Hayes's voice was iron. Then we remind them what's at stake. There's no Earth without sacrifice. Blank, underscore, blank. Meanwhile, the council fractured. The footage of the First Fleet's annihilation had spread across the stars. Citizens of other species began to demand answers. Some worlds sent volunteers quietly, mercenary pilots, freighters packed with supplies. Others turned away, too fearful of Dominion retaliation. But whispers spread. Humanity had fought, humanity had drawn blood, humanity had not been exterminated in a single stroke. In a dim corridor, Mitchell met with Counselor Varia. The once proud delegate now spoke in hushed tones. I argued against you. I dismissed your warnings. And yet, my people have seen the recordings. They demand action. I cannot sway the council, but I can give you ships. Unmarked, discreet. Use them well. Mitchell studied him, suspicion hardening her gaze. Why? Guilt. Fear, Varia admitted. If the Dominion reaches us, we will need allies. And you fight like no species I have seen. Mitchell gave the faintest nod. Then help us now, or you'll find yourselves alone when the storm comes. Blank, underscore, blank. The first counterattack came quietly. Hayes led a task force into the asteroid fields beyond Saturn, striking a Dominion supply convoy. Rail slugs tore through freighters, exploding fuel pods in brilliant cascades. Human fighters darted between escorts, missiles lancing out. The battle was swift, brutal, and victorious. When they returned, the people of Earth erupted in celebration. News feeds replayed the images endlessly. Dominion wrecks burning, human ships returning intact. The phrase spread across networks and colonies like wildfire. The First Fleet fell. The second will rise. Blank, underscore, blank. Yet beneath the triumph, Hayes carried the weight of the dead. At night, in the silence of his quarters, he replayed the battle in the belt. Steele's final words. The screams of phantom pilots. The endless tide of Dominion ships. He stared at the stars outside his window, whispering the same promise again and again. We'll make them pay. For every ship they burned, for every life they stole. We'll make them pay. Blank, underscore, blank. In Dominion space, Admiral Sosoric listened to reports of human raids. His second dismissed them as nuisances. They strike only supply lines, isolated convoys. They are nothing. Sorac's mandibles clicked slowly. Nothing does not bleed us. Nothing does not kill our ships. He gazed at the holomap, where human raids were spreading like sparks in the dark. They are small, yes. But fire begins as sparks. He leaned forward, voice low and grim. And fire consumes everything. The Dominion War Council gathered in a cavernous chamber aboard their flagship, walls alive with crawling bioluminescence. Dozens of admirals stood on chitinous limbs, their mandibles clacking in discordant argument. Crush them now, one snarled. They are gnats, buzzing on our supply lines. Send the armada and be done. Another hissed in warning. They have teeth. The reports show warships destroyed, convoys lost. No prey has ever struck us so deeply so soon. Admiral Sosoric listened in silence, antennae twitching. When at last he spoke, the chamber stilled. They are not prey, he said. They are predators denied. And a predator denied grows hungrier. If we hesitate, their fire will spread. If we strike too soon, we underestimate again. His mandibles clicked sharply. We must adapt as they do. Evolve our response. Only then will they fall. Blank, underscore, blank. On Earth, the fire of resistance spread faster than any Dominion could imagine. News feeds replayed not only the horror of the First Fleet's destruction, but also the images of humanity striking back, Dominion ships torn open, their corpses adrift in the void. Children painted railguns on their walls. Soldiers, chants echoed through training grounds. Musicians released songs of defiance that swept across colonies, pulsing with drums like the heartbeat of a war machine. The phrase became a banner, carved into stone and steel alike, we are not prey. Carter stood atop the launch gantry at the new orbital testing range, the chill of vacuum pressing against her suit. Before her, the upgraded orbital rail array glimmered in the sunlight, its barrels reinforced, its coils humming with energy far beyond the first model. She keyed into comms. This is Carter. Power to full. The slug launched, a silver streak tearing across the void. It struck a derelict battleship target with such force that the vessel crumpled inward, breaking apart like fragile glass. The debris scattered, a glittering halo against the stars. Carter exhaled. For the first time since Steele's death, hope stirred. This time, she whispered, we'll be ready. Blank, underscore, blank. Hayes faced rows of recruits in the training hall, miners, freighter pilots, colonists who had never fired a weapon in anger. They looked at him with wide eyes, some afraid, some burning with anger. He paced slowly before them. You've all seen the footage. You know what waits for you in the void. The Dominion won't give you mercy. They won't give you second chances. But you don't need their mercy. You need skill, discipline, and fire. A young recruit raised his hand, voice trembling. Sir, what if we can't do it? What if we freeze out there? Hayes stopped in front of him, eyes sharp but not unkind. Then you breathe. You steady your hands. And you remember this, it's not about you. It's about the person flying beside you. You fight so they live. And they fight so you live. The recruit nodded, shoulders squaring. Fear was still there, but now it burned alongside determination. Blank, underscore, blank. Ambassador Mitchell's war was fought in shadows. She met with smugglers in hidden ports, mercenary captains in backroom taverns, dissident counselors in encrypted calls. Promises of credits, technology, and future alliances flowed from her lips. Slowly, a patchwork of support grew. A flotilla of insectoid mercenaries pledged their guns. A rogue trader brought stealth tech once forbidden by the Council. Even a handful of alien engineers joined Carter's teams, offering insights that shaved years off human development. Mitchell returned to Earth under secrecy, watching the new ships rise from their cradles. She allowed herself a thin smile. The Council may debate until their stars die, she murmured. But the galaxy has chosen sides. And they've chosen with us. Blank, underscore, blank. Back aboard his flagship, Admiral Sosoric gazed into the dark. Reports of human defiance spread across his displays, supply convoys destroyed, weapons advancing, allies gathering in secret. His second approached. The flames grow. Shall we extinguish them now? Sirach's mandibles flexed in a grim smile. Yes, but not with haste. With precision. With overwhelming fire. If humanity wishes to rise, then we shall show them the cost of standing. His gaze hardened. Prepare the Dominion's next armada. We will burn their world until even their ashes fear us. Far beyond Earth's skies, a storm began to gather. And humanity, bloodied but unbroken, sharpened its claws in the dark, ready to meet it. The skies above Earth darkened as Dominion ships bled out of warp. One by one, vast silhouettes took shape, blotting out the stars, a new armada, larger than the one that had shattered the First Fleet. Their hulls glimmered with predatory light, weapons humming with the promise of annihilation. Panic rippled across the colonies. Civilians were evacuated into bunkers, skies filled with transports streaming toward fortified shelters. Across the system, alarms screamed, "This is not a drill. Prepare for planetary defense. Blank. On the orbital platforms, Carter stood at the command nexus of the orbital rail array. Her hands flew across controls, voice steady though her heart thundered. Targeting solutions locked. Fire on my mark. The array roared, a thunderous vibration that shook even through vacuum. Massive slugs tore across the void, each the size of a shuttle. The first Dominion warship shuddered under impact, armor peeling, its shield screaming before collapsing. Fire blossomed across its hull. Carter's teeth clenched. Reload. Again. The second volley tore through another battleship. For the first time in living memory, Dominion vessels reeled back from Earth's guns. Blank. Hayes led the fleet into the kill zone. Human ships were still smaller, lighter, many patched together with alien tech and raw steel. But they moved like predators, weaving through gaps, striking weak points with precision rail fire. Squadron 3, flank left. Push them toward the array's kill arc. The battle became a dance, human ships darting like wolves around lumbering Dominion leviathans. Fighters swarmed, pilots screaming battle cries across comms. Explosions lit the void, a graveyard of wreckage spreading like shrapnel around the planet. A Dominion dreadnought loomed before Hayes, cruiser, weapons locking. Hayes, knuckles whitened on the controls. Brace. Then the dreadnought's flank erupted as Allied ships warped in, sleek insectoid frigates, mercenary raiders, even a stolen Dominion corvette flying human colors. Mitchell's voice cut through comms, calm and fierce, reinforcements acquired. I suggest you use them. Cheers erupted across the channels. The tide shifted. The Dominion armada began to falter. One by one, their ships fell, some shattered by Carter's orbital cannons, others torn apart by Hayes, Wolfpack tactics, others overwhelmed by the ragtag coalition Mitchell had assembled. Humanity had bled, but they had not broken. And now, they struck back with fury. At last, the Dominion flagship broke formation, limping into retreat. The surviving warships followed, vanishing into warp, leaving behind only burning husks and silence. In the aftermath, Earth's skies cleared. Humanity looked upward and, for the first time, did not see inevitable death. They saw possibility. Survivors embraced in the streets, soldiers sang songs of victory, and the phrase burned brighter than ever, "We are not prey." Far away, aboard his own flagship, Admiral Sosoric watched the reports in silence. His second shifted uneasily. They should have been ash. How did they stand? Sirach's mandibles flexed. His voice was low, edged with both anger and a rare unease. Because they are not prey. They are something new, something dangerous. His antennae quivered as he stared into the void. And if we do not end them soon, they will set the galaxy aflame. The storm had broken. The war was no longer a slaughter. It was a contest. And humanity had turned the tide. The Dominion retreat was not clean. Not every ship had the chance to flee. Some, too damaged to make the jump, fell into Earth's gravity well and burned in fiery arcs across the atmosphere. Others detonated where they drifted, raining down shrapnel and plasma. On Luna, a different storm had unfolded. Dominion dropships had punched through defenses in the early hours of the battle, deploying shock troopers in obsidian armor. Their towering forms carved through human outposts with plasma halberds, their movements precise and terrifying. Yet they did not find civilians cowering. They found miners who had picked up rifles. Engineers who turned excavation lasers into weapons. Soldiers who fought tooth and nail in corridors where rail pistols screamed and the very air filled with fire. General Hayes' voice came over the open channel. Luna command, hold your lines. Earth isn't falling, and neither are you. A battered mining crew pinned down a Dominion squad at a pressure junction. One miner, an old man named Ortega, slammed his wrench against a Dominion's helmet before taking a plasma bolt through the chest. His sacrifice sealed the corridor, giving the defenders precious minutes. Such stories spread like wildfire, ordinary humans proving extraordinary under fire. Blank. On Mars, where the red dust swirled under thin skies, Dominion war machines thundered across the plains. Their skimmer tanks rained energy bolts upon fledgling colonies. But Carter had anticipated this. Buried rail platforms, hidden beneath the surface, rose with hydraulic force. Fire! Carter commanded. Steel rods screamed across kilometers, striking with devastating precision. Dominion armor cracked open, their skimmers exploding in fireballs that lit the Martian dusk. Colonists rallied, chanting in unison as the first Dominion armored assault was broken by a colony barely 20 years old. In orbit, Mitchell stood at the heart of negotiations. Holographic images of alien leaders flickered around her. Insectoid traders, crystalline scholars, even a rogue Dominion defector. You saw what happened, Mitchell said, her voice carrying both steel and plea. Humanity bled, but we endured. You said we were reckless. You said we were fragile. Tell me, who here can claim they've ever forced the Dominion to retreat? The silence was thick. Then, slowly, the insectoid matriarch clicked her mandibles. Perhaps there is wisdom in the fire of your kind. We will lend ships. Another voice followed. A crystalline elder chimed, weapons, too. Knowledge of their codes. One by one, hands, or their alien equivalents, rose in reluctant agreement. Mitchell allowed herself the smallest of smiles. Humanity would not stand alone anymore. Back on Earth, the streets were unrecognizable. Where once fear had ruled, now defiance thrummed like electricity. Children wore improvised, railgun, toys, shouting mock battle cries. Musicians turned the thunderous sounds of the orbital array into symphonies of triumph. Graffiti blazed across concrete walls, not prey. Predators. For the first time, a Victory Day was declared. Across every continent, humans lit fires, released lanterns into skies, and painted stars on their faces. The phrase, "We are not prey," became a chant, a prayer, and a declaration of identity. Hayes stood among his squadron, exhausted, armor scorched. He watched a group of civilians embrace soldiers returning from the void. For the first time since the war began, he let himself believe they could win. Carter, meanwhile, returned to her labs, her mind already racing. If this array can force them back, she murmured, what could 3 arrays do? What about one mounted on a dreadnought? Her eyes gleamed with dangerous inspiration. Humanity's weaponry was still only in its infancy. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Sosoric watched his advisors bicker. They are ants, one hissed. The second armada was careless, nothing more. They are not ants, Sosoric snapped. Ants do not kill lions. He rose, his silhouette sharp against the starlight. The humans are becoming a contagion. Their defiance spreads to others. Already species whisper of rebellion. Already our grip loosens. If they are not crushed entirely, they will ignite a fire that consumes us all. His mandibles curled in grim resolve. The next strike will not be fleets alone. We will break them from within. Their unity is brittle. Their politics weak. Their species, corruptible. The seeds of the next warfront were already being sown. Humanity had turned the tide in open battle, but the Dominion was adapting. And the next blow would not come from the stars, it would come from the shadows.